All right, we're going live. So, good morning and evening and afternoon in different time zones. Thank you so much for joining this call. Today is a packed day full of great things around compensation, around the topics of what's happening with the industry, all the changes that have happened in August, and all the follow-up changes in September. We're getting a ton of questions from our realtors, especially in the States. And if you're in Canada, this is coming for you. So be prepared. We're not saying it will, but it's very likely that it will. So today we're lucky to have Ginger and Sabina again for another round of compensation strategies and just going deep into the weeds of how everything works. So, guys, this is a partnership with Hivology. Be sure to look into the links that are provided in the chat. Go to hivology.com/roomvu to get all the forms and everything else. And we will put the right link. I'm usually bad at URLs, but we'll put the right link in the chat for you. I
It
can
was
see
close this
Sabina
time,
saying,
Sam. It was close. It was close. It's okay.
so I
I'll
was
fix
like
that.
looking closely at Sabina. I'm like,
I'll fix it as we go. Don't worry.
okay, all right. But anyway, so guys, as usual, please tell us which city you're joining from. And what we are focusing on is creating your own compensation model for 2025 and really going into deep into this. So we have about 30 people watching us live right now, and we're probably going to grow this to 100 or so every time. And then if you're rewatching this again, there is a playlist of all the past series. There's 6 or 7 videos as to how to go through this. A lot of your questions will be answered there. And let's get going. So, Sabina, you can take the floor.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm the founder and CEO at Hivology. We're the hosts along with roomvu, and super excited. This is our 7th one already, which means we've been doing this for 7 months already, guys, if you can believe that. We're here to really just help you guys fast track your business growth. We've got a really dynamic learning community that's full of coaching, resources, and training. Ginger is one of the wonderful instructors that we work with on a regular basis, so she's been kind enough to join us again today. With about 25 years of experience, and we've delivered, believe it or not, over 1 million e-learning courses in those years, all of them to real estate pros. So we've pretty much mastered what works. And in this particular market, we wanted to make sure we were there for you to help you understand what needs to be done now. So of course, as things change, and in this particular case, we're focusing, of course, on what's been happening with the post-NAR settlement. And today we're really kind of excited because one of the questions that we keep getting from everybody is this idea that they're not 100% clear on how to do their compensation models for sort of the go forward or the new reality. So we're really just honing in on that today to talk about everything that has to do with comp models and obviously seller concessions. Everything from how you pitch it, how you earn it, how you protect yourself. So stick around to the end. It's going to be really important. And to that end, I wanted to also let you know that we've got a number of really, really wonderful tools for you guys that we've included. As you guys know, for anyone that's been with us before, we always make sure that you get a bunch of free resources. So if you go to gohive.info/roomvu, that is also in the YouTube channel so that you'll find that link. You're going to find 5, actually 6 really, really good bonuses. We're going to talk about them as we work our way through, but I highly recommend that you go and download those and then you have them available. So if you could check that out, gohive.info/roomvu, that'll get you started. And then Sam, before I introduce Ginger, did you guys want to talk a little bit about
Yeah. So while
roomvu?
we wait for everyone to come, we got about 1 or 2 minutes of waiting. So we have Gary up explaining what roomvu is. If you are already using roomvu, great. Please give us your comments and feedback. If not, here's a very quick overview of roomvu in 2 minutes or less.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Gary,
Sam.
go ahead.
Yep, without a doubt. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having RoomView be a part of this meeting. As we are talking about right now in the introduction, it is ever more important to really establish credibility as a real estate agent with the new changes as of August. And roomvu is definitely going to help you accomplish this. We got to keep in mind in real estate, you have to earn the business of your clients prior to them being ready to buy or sell. And in order to do that, you have to establish yourself as a credible real estate agent within your marketplace. And because roomvu focuses on hyperlocal content that is going to be posted on a daily basis, that means you will be seeing often and seen by the right people when you partner with us. Sam will go on and explore this a little bit more, this notion of being seeing often by the right people. But at the end of the day, if you want to establish that credibility like no one else in the marketplace, because at the end of the day, real estate and marketing is a competition for people's attention, and we do it better than anybody else. So if you want that attention and really establish yourself as the authority in your location, please think about partnering with roomvu because we definitely have you covered. So Sam, I'll just go ahead and just pass this back to you.
All right, great. So thank you, Gary, for this. And let's go dive deep into this. So guys, please put in your questions in the chat. I see people from Louisiana, Texas, Austin, Texas, Sacramento, California, Boston. So we're getting a ton of people from different areas and a lot in Canada. So it's great that you're staying ahead of the curve. And a lot of the things that we cover will be useful for you. So with that, I think Sabina, you can take the lead and let's get going.
That sounds great. And I will mention, actually, that's a really good point, Sam. For anybody that's in Canada, we're talking not just about what's happening in the US here. This is also different ways for you to create your account models that diversify your income and a number of other things. So there's lots of good stuff for you here too. Ginger, I just want to take a minute to introduce you. We're so delighted to have you back to help us. You've been such a big hit on our previous sessions. Everybody, one of the most important things to know about Ginger is she's an active broker and agent, very experienced, very popular instructor. She has completed many, many millions of dollars in real estate transactions. On all of them, she's been having to deal with BAAs, buyer agency agreements, and negotiating her compensation because she is a commercial agent. So what's very exciting about that is for somebody that's been doing this for decades, this is a no-brainer. And Ginger can help all of us who are dealing with this for the first time. So thank you, Ginger. Really appreciate you being here today.
Oh, happy to be here.
I wanted to just mention one other quick thing before I jump into the actual first question. Everybody, please remember that even though we're now in the post-official implementation date, we see things are still changing a little bit. There's still states and brokers changing forms. There's stuff still happening. So remember, please, we're trying to keep this as up to date as we can, but you must check with your broker, check with your state or local. And remember, this is not legal advice. We're doing our best here to give you the best educational information we can. So having said that, let me jump in with the first question. We all know that we're getting tons of questions every day now from the field now that everybody's actually having to implement the rules. It was one thing to talk about them before they happened. It's another to apply them to your business. So one of the very first things that I wanted to sort of focus on for a second, we've talked about this in the past, but I think it's really important because not everybody is already there with this issue. And the very, very first thing that we recommend as it relates to compensation is focusing on your value prop. And I know everybody's been hearing about value prop a lot this year, but we're still finding a lot of agents who are not able to communicate their value prop properly. So I'm going to ask a question in the chat. How many of you have your value prop nailed? How many of you have done it for different client types? Do you have presentations for each and an elevator pitch for each? Because that's what we're suggesting that you need in order to be really, really confident. And the main reason is once your value prop is clear, then compensation conversations are just so much easier. So Sam, maybe you can tell us later how everybody answered, but Ginger, let's talk about how they can practically create their value prop. Just remind them, please, package it, pitch it, whatever, so that they will get paid.
Okay. Well, number one, your unique value proposition. It's a powerful way to set yourself apart from all the other agents out there. Remember, you can't change the number of agents they're going to meet with, but you can change your substance in your value proposition. Substance means you show up with not just a catchphrase. You know, Sally sells luxury homes is not really a value proposition. So be the neighborhood expert in whatever subset they're actually wanting to buy or sell, showing up with very specific demographic data to show where their home is in the market. You know, and over here in Texas, we are actually having our market change very rapidly. It is going from 3 months to 4 months to almost 5 months already days on market. So that's a rapid change. Your clients need to know that. But also, you need to show what you do. A lot of people have no idea what you do in this business. So you need to show them a roadmap of how you're going to guide them through the transaction. But then more importantly, they want to know why you do this. So many people say, well, why are you a realtor? Why did you do this? You need to have that reason very nailed down. Please do not say, I love the money and the freedom, because that's not what they want to hear. They want you to be authentic. Maybe you truly love people being able to own a home in America today or Canada. So also, your niche should be a focus. Are you a luxury salesperson? Are you a first-time buyer? Are you working in nothing but condos? Are you doing farm and ranch? And remember, riches are in niches. So don't be the jack of all trades realtor. It is
I
very
love that.
difficult
I
to
love
do
that. I think
everything.
we keep
It-
seeing realtors say, I'm a luxury agent. And I'm like, okay, what is luxury even meaning? Like, is it just homes over 2 million? So does that mean if someone came to you with a 300K purchase, you would not help them? If that's
Yep.
not the case, please do not say so, right? So, and the other thing is always make sure that you are having a specific niche. So a lot of people will be like in the investor market. I am in the second time or downsizing. Downsizing is a huge niche, and people love to have someone specialized in downsizing. I've seen people like really flourishing with divorce. I'm a divorce agent. Like I'm really good at that. I can handle mediations. I can handle the challenges. The same with investment properties. I'm really good with tenants. I know how to handle them. I know how to talk with them and get showing appointments without frustrating your tenants. So I think to your point, it's super important to just stay away from like random terms like luxury, and I only sell luxury, to something a little bit more meaningful for the average person, because that luxury person is probably not going to have their first purchase with you anyway. It's probably an upgrade, and they might have had a relationship with another person already that moves the needle for them. Anyway,
That's
just
true.
I just added my thoughts here.
I thought that was great thoughts. All right. Also, you should have a vetted vendor list. You should be able to keep their out-of-pocket expenses as low as possible. Remember, you are a problem solver and you are an anxiety buster. They should have as little anxiety and stress over this transaction. That should be all on you, not on them. And you need to run that by them. Listen, I'm going to make sure that this goes smoothly, and this is how I do it. Don't be the agent that just shows up with some black and white MLS sheets, because that is not a presentation. We need to understand what a presentation is. And we're going to get into that a little bit later.
I love
That
that. I love that.
the other thing that goes along with that is the sort of, the other key to value is services. So, when we talk about that, if we think about the more value they offer, the more you can stand out, own more of the transaction, earn more across the board, maintain the relationship past just the one single transaction. So what should agents be thinking about as part of their service list, as part of their value prop? And how does that diversify and multiply their income opportunities?
Well, there's lots of opportunities for guys, especially and ladies, if they are full service agents. Or do you have a menu of services? Maybe it's a la carte. Now, once again, you have to get with your broker. I've had some brokers say we are full service. We're not going to lower any of our services whatsoever. And then I've had other brokers say, well, they are free to do a la carte services. So when we think about a la carte services, remember, you also could be a referral agent. You could make money from referring actual deals out. Maybe you go to something that is not for you. So I want y'all to think about deals that you get there and you know it's not going to be a deal for you. Refer it to Sam for 30%. He will probably take it, right, Sam? Look at him. He's like, I don't know. Depends on what it is.
Why
So
not?
also think about where would those referrals come from? Probate attorneys, real estate attorneys. Lots of people miss this. Commercial agents, farm and ranch people do not do residential on a typical basis. You can get referrals from them. So that is a money what? A money grab right there that's fairly easy if you just make those connections. But I also want you to think about other things. Have a great group of contractors as part of your menu of services, like lawn services, painting, staging, make-readies, mobile notary, photography, drone services. There's many ways for you to expand your income base by adding these products. But then also, if you're only doing one thing, let's just say you are the luxury buyer agent, well, maybe you want to add one new niche to your business. Maybe you're going to work on short-term rentals because there are luxury short-term rentals. But think about commercial, think about farm and ranch, think about resort. Pick one thing and then you need to learn it frontwards, backwards before you move on to something else. Because you don't want to be hopping around from one subset to the other until you have learned them completely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We see that a lot with a lot of the agents that we talk to, because of course we're training them on some of these new niches. I will mention a couple of things in the bonuses at the gohive.info/roomvu. You're going to find two things that I think that will help you. One is there's a 60+ side hustle bonus resource, which is a lot of fun. If you go through that list, we've tried to cover off over 60 ideas to help you sort of think through places where you can either look for referrals, or you can also add your own side hustle or niche that will help you diversify. And then we also have some classes that will help you go deeper if you wish to do that. So just drop in when you can. So Ginger, once they've figured out what it is that they want to do, what do you recommend just briefly for how they pitch it? Like how are agents best going to market with this information?
Well, you should have 3 presentation models ready for each type of client you serve. You should have your pre-presentation, which would be an intake form, maybe a very short meeting. And then you should have your in-person or your virtual presentation ready. These are different than the first one. And then, of course, you always have to follow up with a presentation if you did not get that buyer rep signed or you did not get that seller listing agreement signed. You must follow up. And I'm going to be the old lady in the room here because I think I really am. Send a thank you note, a handwritten thank you note, whether you got the deal or you did not get the deal. You tell them thank you for your time. People have actually gotten deals because they had the etiquette to send a handwritten thank you note. That goes a long way with a certain crowd out there. Remember, no cookie cutter presentation should be used. If it's a sell or buy of different subsets, you should have a completely different presentation, completely different market information on each one of those. And then we all have to remember buyers are on different levels of knowledge. I might work with a buyer that hadn't bought a house in 30 years, and they compare to a buyer that's a first-time buyer because they just don't know what's happening out there right now. I may have a buyer that's bought 5 houses in 2 years. I don't need to go as deep with that buyer. But it is our responsibility to actually sit down with them in our presentation and explain to them how this is going to look step by step.
Love it. Love it. Sam, any questions we should jump in on, or do you want me to keep rolling?
So I think we haven't got any specific questions. There were a few questions around webinar link and how to find the gohive.info/roomvu. We've covered those and we've put them repeatedly in there. There's
Okay.
also the playlist to the past webinars, so you can simply watch those there, guys, and kind of get information, go deep into them. As we go to the next topic, I will bring in the questions that you've already asked in the initial questionnaire for the webinar. So we will be reading them afterwards. So carry on, please.
Love it. Okay, so what we just talked about is what we consider to be sort of step 1. So you're getting organized about how to get, sort of your message out there and understanding your comp models. Next, we're going to talk about comp structure. So this is a bit different. So now we want to talk about the bones of your compensation model. We want to make sure that this holds strong no matter what the market throws at you. Obviously, we just talked about extending your offering. So when you have multiple income streams, that alone will provide some security to you. But as it relates to doing residential deals, we need to talk about two things as it relates to structures. One is what we call sort of predetermined comp models, and the second is concessions at deal time. So Ginger, why don't we start with the different comp models and give everybody sort of an overview of some of the things that they should be thinking about talking to, first obviously developing, but also talking to their buyers and sellers about.
And let me just say this to keep everybody safe. You're going to have to talk to your broker because there are some brokers that are not moving off percentage-based models right now. That does not mean they're not going to move off of that moving forward, but at this moment, they may not be. So first of all, make sure you can do what I'm about to tell you. So in my world, we have had percentage-based models. We've also had flat fee models. There's a flat fee for whatever we're doing. We have an hourly model. We also have a retainer-based model. So keep in mind, I think everybody in this industry is going to have to be more flexible with what you're willing to do. But you also are going to have to be able to say to somebody, I'm sorry, this compensation that we're discussing is not going to work for me. Now you can walk away, or once again, Sam, I'm giving you a lot of business. I can refer that to Sam because Sam might be happy with that structure. Just because you're not happy with it does not mean another agent in your office or out of your office would not be totally thrilled with that compensation model. And you still get what, Sam? Sam's going to give me 50% on this one. Right,
Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, there you go. You got it. So
Sam, she keeps
here's my
going, she's going
question,
up
like,
every
what do you-
time.
Keep going up, Sam. My money keeps going up, right?
I
It's
love it.
amazing. It's amazing.
I love it. I
think
will
I have
also
a
mention
question
to
here, though,
everybody.
and I'm going to interrupt you for a sec because here's my question.
Mhm.
When we talk about a la carte services or menu of services, this opens up this question that, hey, can I have Sam working for me just giving me the offer writing service, for example, for like $5,000? Or
Yeah.
can I have Sam working for me just scheduling showings for me for like $2,000? Or can I have Sam working for me just doing various things? I think the biggest question that I have right now is where does the liability kind of start and
Well,
stop? Because
so
if
let's
I'm
talk about
presenting
that.
you with an offer, if I'm writing that offer and I'm only getting 5K for it, can you come back then and sue me for that? Like, do I have to have any legal disclaimers or anything similar to that if I'm offering that type of service as a discount service?
Well, it depends on your state. In our state, if you're limiting any services, you must put that in writing and they must sign that. So it really depends on what does your state say. We have fiduciary duties if we're in an agency agreements that we have to fulfill certain items. So I would say to everybody on the call, you're going to have to figure out what is your state's requirements. Do you have to tell them, well, I am only going to write your contract. I am not going to negotiate it. I'm not going to take the time to be sending it back and forth. That's not my job. If that's the case in our state, we have to actually limit that, put it in writing. They have to agree to it. But every state still has basic fiduciary duties that every agent is held to. So I would say, since we have everybody from everywhere, they're going to have to figure that out. And I would have some disclaimers. I would get the real estate attorneys and your brokers to have those written up. You can't write those up because that is practicing law.
Well, you also have to think about, in my opinion anyway, when you work through this for yourself, if you think about what it is that you, first of all, want to do, second of all, send it past your lawyer, your broker, make sure that everybody has signed off on everything. And then I think to that point, it's a really, really good question. Make sure that if there's any legalese needed, that you've got that coming from a lawyer, and then you're covered completely. So you can roll into whatever Q1 or whenever you end up doing this with a plan that's super solid and you don't have to worry. A lot of the stress comes out of this conversation once you understand what those steps are.
So we have a question from
What?
Bill relating to that a la carte services.
Mhm.
And that is basically if I want to build out a team of various agents doing various things, how would I go about doing that? Because I think to your point, Ginger, you said you can have someone else being able to do this for like 30%, another person doing it for like 45%, and so on. How do you incorporate that into a team and send out a team basically structure and
Well,
send it out to the world as well?
Well, if he's the broker, I think at building that team, number one, there would have to be consensus on that team, what they're willing to do, because not everybody's going to be willing to do all of those items. Some people are going to say, I am not going to work hourly. Some people are going to say, I'm not going to do a flat fee. So he would have to build out his team with a consensus. And then once again, look at his state agency laws. What does he have to, by state law, actually provide? Keep in mind, we still have to follow the code of ethics as well. So I think he would have to have some team members that are open-minded to this. There are still agents out there, Sam, they cannot see past percentage-based compensation. You know, I have worked all of these models in my business for a lot of years. I've had a lot of percentage, but I have a lot of flat fee as well. And I do retainer as well. But you have to be open-minded, but so does your broker, and then so do your state regulations. So there may be some states you're not even allowed to do this, Sam.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Another question is, if I'm building a commercial real estate division, can I do referrals with commercial agents? Because
Well, we
it's
do
been
it all the
famous that
time.
commercial agents are not playing as well as resi agents. And there's a reason for that, because they're busy and they have a lot of different things to do and so on. But like, I would love to know like what are your thoughts around that, especially as we go into this newer market where well, realtors are not going to have as many closings and as many sites to close on.
Well, if you're going to step into commercial, number one, you need to get educated, because you might find yourself in a lawsuit, number one. But number two, most of us work in various models just like this. Now, I am my own broker, so I'm free to make my own decisions. But if I wasn't my own broker, Sam, I would still have to go back to my brokerage and see what they would allow. When you say we don't play friendly, we play friendly. I can't believe you said such a thing.
As a resi agent,
that's
I've
like
sent
Sam's
so
version
many
of
deals to
clickbait.
commercials, and they're like, Sam,
Is
sorry.
he baiting me? Is he
I
baiting
think
me?
he's
I think he
baiting you
might
a
be.
little bit. He's trying to cause trouble.
I am always friendly to anyone that's bringing a
That's
buyer.
right.
So,
But yeah, no, I think the consensus around the industry is that, like, yes, you can send a lead to a commercial agent, but it's hard to get like 25% from him just for a commercial sale, because there's multiple parties in that
well,
transaction.
I think it depends on the commercial agent. If I have a residential agent that brings me the deal, brings me the client, and I'm working the deal, I am more than happy to pay 25%. So I don't think that's all commercial agents. You got to
Yeah.
find the right one, Sam. Call me.
All right. We're moving
Yeah.
to Texas. That's it.
There you go.
Exactly, everybody. So I'm going to keep us rolling because we're going to be
Mm-hmm.
behind time shortly. So let me ask you another quick question. So as everybody sort of thinks about the comp models, the next part is to think about the seller concessions. So we want to make sure that everyone, first of all, understands what types of concessions there are. So maybe we can start there, Ginger, and give us a bit of an overview, and then we'll go a little deeper.
Now, once again, the seller actually has to want to do these concessions. So remember, some contracts in our state, we have a contract that actually says seller will not consider concessions. So at least we know right up front. But here's what I'm going to tell you, Sam. It's really going to depend on the offering price, whether they're going to move off of that. They may have checked no, but then they got the offer and they said, well, let me see what that looks like. So it could be things such as closing cost. It could be they're going to pay all repairs, because that is not a seller's obligation. It could be they're going to foot the HOA bills, which some of them are fairly large out there. Could be surveys, could be I said HOA, but I meant home warranty after HOA, title policies. And once again, we are free to put buyer's agent's compensation as one of the seller concessions. So there's a million different ways to work a contract besides just saying, I need my BAC. You can work this a million different ways, and agents have got to learn how to trade off items to get these transactions done.
And I'll remind everybody too to make sure that they get it signed off in advance. So your seller is signed off if possible. And if you need to run all the stuff by your broker, do that too. But we've given you something, it's a seller concession guide that is wonderful. I think it works you through pretty much the bulk of the ways in which you can achieve a seller concession. But it also allows you to sort of work through your language, get it signed off, all that good stuff. And then the other thing is there's another document that inside of it has an offer comparison worksheet. So maybe talk to that a tiny bit, Ginger, about this idea of how do we now compare offers if we've got, these concessions are driving cost at one level, maybe there's another one that's completely different. How do we present that both to our seller and obviously in some cases you even have to do that for the buyer's agent?
Yeah, you should do it for both sides. So I think the sheet that you're giving them, the resource, they can line these deals up side by side. They can look at a net sheet. I am finding that a lot of residential agents that work with buyers don't give them a net sheet. They should get a net sheet. What are they going to have to come out of pocket with at closing? So this document that she is giving you guys is going to help you do that, but it's also going to help the buyer look at one item compared to what is the next seller willing to do. So especially today, because of buyer agent compensation not be readily available on MLSs, it is now a negotiating tactic. And we're going to need to understand, is that buyer going to be obligating to pay 1% of it or all of it? It could be none of it. They need to know. So if I'm buying one house and I'm obligated to 1% and that seller is not willing to pay any closing cost, and the house right beside it that's comparable, they are paying closing costs and they are paying something towards the buyer compensation. Well, that's probably going to look like a better deal to me as a buyer as far as out-of-pocket expenses. And we need to line that out on both sides, buyer and seller.
Yeah, I agree. Sam, anything you want us to jump into? We're going to move into section in our last section, which is the strategy section.
I think we're getting a lot of questions around new. Okay, so I'm going to go through them one by one. So we have one person that is Carlos. He says he's a new agent. How does he get by? So in terms of new agents, Carlos, we do have a new agent program. In that case, you get 50% off your first year with roomvu, so you can use that incentive to kind of get going, because we believe the first year is the hardest year in real estate. So if you can get by through that first year, so there's a ton of resources. I'm sure Hivology has some resources as well that you can use. So make sure that you utilize these programs to get going, and know that like my first year sucked. I had like 3 sales in the first year, and they weren't big sales. It was just like friends and family, giving some kickbacks and all those things that you have to do to just get by. But that's just the process. So trust the process, go through, and you'll be fine. There's another question that we have from a few broker owners, just like Luxan, that are trying to see how to help their agents and their clients with the new system. So I'm going to add my thoughts, and then I guess Ginger and Sabine can also add their own thoughts. So as a broker, I think there's a few things that you can offer. We do have a brokerage program that allows all of your agents to get free social media posting and so on. So they get some content and they can post it. That's the one thing that you can do for your agents. Another thing that you can do is probably coming up with new strategies, just like what we discussed in this call around the compensation, getting some collaboration among the agents going, the top producers helping or doing deals with the newer agents to get the balls rolling. So it frees up some time from the top producers, and then the newer agents get some experience. Another and we can talk about this. Another question around compensation again is, we have a question from Chuck. He's asking, I want to know about revenue share, fixed monthly broker fees among my agents, and kind of insurance things that I can have for my agents. How do you go about that? So I think these two questions are mingled to one topic. So would love to hear your thoughts around that.
My thoughts are for you brokers out there, and we'll get to the new agent in a second. You know, we have lots of classes just for brokers, no agents included. Broker responsibility is one of these classes. These guys network in these classes. I had 88 of them in one class, and they get to be put in breakout rooms, or if you're live, they actually get broken out into rooms, and they all talk to each other about what's working and what's not working. So I think actually networking with other brokers, they used to call that word synergy. So you could kind of have an idea of what works and what doesn't. And it also depends on your area. What works in one area in a large, like Houston, Texas, is not going to work in Midland, Texas. So you have to also look at your market. You know, where are you? Are you in a little town? You in a big town? So I think actually getting on some of these Facebook groups with just brokers, you can talk to each other, and people are more apt to talk to each other from another state. They will listen to
Yeah.
somebody in
They don't see each
Louisiana
other
or
as competition,
Arkansas
right?
because
They're
they're
like, oh,
not
you're in the
giving
same
away their
city.
secrets. You know, they're all afraid they're giving away their secrets. So I would say networking, taking classes that are just for brokers and training. And for you new agent out there, I just want to tell you, the first year is rough for a lot of people. A lot of people don't sell anything their first year. Don't worry about that. You should be spending your first year educating yourself. You should also be going to networking functions. You should go to a networking function at least 3 times a week until you are at your third year, or maybe you've already hit it. Maybe at year 2 you were killing it. But I promise you, year 3 is the golden year. If you have made it past year 3, you're golden. So just hang in there. Hang
I
in
Hang
there.
in
love that.
there.
Year 3, I think is the key year. Like if you get past through the third year, you're very likely to stick around in industry and go on. I think another mark is probably year 6. If you pass year 6, you're definitely sticking around. You're not going anywhere, unless you just go by choice rather than yeah. So that's great. Let's go to the next section, Sabina. I think we're ready for that next.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to mention one other quick thing for brokers. We've got a ton of education for your agents. So if you're interested, get a hold of us and we'll just speak with you directly so that you know what's available. Some free stuff, some super affordable stuff. Just get in touch with us. You can go through our website or connect with me directly, whatever you prefer. So let's move on to step 3, which is strategy. So when we talk about strategy, this is going to be broken into about 4 or 5 different areas. So let's start with how everyone can map out their game plan. So basically that you're playing chess while everyone else is stuck on checkers. So first thing we want to talk about is what would you include in a comp strategy? So maybe just, if you don't mind, Ginger, talk about like, what are the 4 sort of key places where they can really win?
Well, I think communicating your unique value proposition with confidence is one thing to bring that. If you're not confident in what you're saying, they can tell. So remember, they're judging you while you're communicating your value. They're judging you how you're negotiating your compensation with them, because what they're thinking is, well, if this person can't even negotiate their compensation with me, how will they do negotiating my contract? You really have to think how they're watching you. And once again, brag on yourself. People have a hard time bragging on their stuff. It's tough. It's tough for me. You should talk about your achievements. I want you all to know, and I think Sam can help you with this. Every single one of them is going to your private Facebook group, your your business page. Trust me, they don't even care about that because they know you're behaving there. Where are they going? They're going to your Instagram. They're going to your actual Facebook. They're checking you out. Are you somebody that is putting out content that is what? Relevant to them. And I like Sam's deal where it drills down. There are many things out there. You can get what's happening in the US. Doesn't really matter. What matters is what's happening in your area. Are you the local expert? And then I think a lot of agents avoid talking about compensation at the beginning. You need to be transparent from the very beginning. You are doing a service. This is a professional service, and there is a fee for it. If you went to the CPA or you went to the attorney, Sam, would they blink giving you their fees? They don't blink, do they? They're like, here's my fee. This is how you need to be. You need to make sure you are not being shy about talking about your compensation. It needs to be right up front. And then I would say to all of you, That market data, you should have it on your laptop at all times. You should not say, I'm going to have to go look that up. When you show up to that buyer's rep or that seller's listing, you already have it. You have it already pulled up, ready to go. Not, I'll get back with you in 2 days. And then, of course, communicating these NAR rule changes effectively and with ease to show that you're confident that this rule change has not changed your way of doing business at all, other than, and you probably were doing it anyway, I hope, but a lot of states did not have this. You now have to have a buyer's rep agreement signed. We always had to do that. But in
I
some
think
states, that was
just to
not a thing.
reiterate on your points, I think of it as a funnel, right? So at the very top, people will Google you. The first
Oh,
thing
yeah.
is, what do they see when they Google you? Right? Are they seeing another realtor from a different state? Because that's very likely to happen. If you're Sam and your last name is James, trust me, there's a lot of Sam Jameses out there that will show up first when you Google them. This happens to me every time I Google a realtor. If they're lucky, the realtor.com profile or Zillow profile shows up, and a lot of times it doesn't. All right. The next question is, if you own the search for your own name, at least, meaning your social media shows up, this is very important because last year NAR did a study. And the study was, what do you look for the most when you're hiring a sales agent, someone that sells your home? 65% of the sellers said, I want my home to be marketed beyond Zillow and MLS.
Yep.
All right, where is that? That's social media, right? That's anywhere else but just the MLS. Because to Ginger's point, as inventory builds up, it's going to be harder and harder to move homes. You need to find that buyer. You need to get in front of them. And you need to really convince them to say, hey, not Sally's home. Come take a look at my listing. It's better for this and this and this reason. So I think that seller is going to look at how you market that home. Have you created a video about that home? Did you add your own narrative about that? Did you just post listings of a home and just put it out there? That's probably just like, we are not glorified door openers anymore, right? So we are a lot more than that. And I think that's what we're focusing on, making sure that we do a lot more than what we are just used to in a hot market. So then it comes down to, once you've established all these values, that you are the authority in your market, you know what you're doing, you are the person that they should come to, then you have a very easy time establishing your fee structure, because you're like, well, you already came to me, you know me, I'm the best guy that can help you, here's my fee.
Believe me, guys, they are checking you out before they ever meet with you. And if you're the guy or lady that only puts stuff on MLS, you don't have Facebook ads, you don't have that social media, Instagram going on, they're going to pull to the agent that's doing what all of those things. You used to be able to get away with that during COVID. Those days are over because inventory is growing rapidly in every single town.
Yeah, agreed with that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, actually, that's a kind of a good segue, Ginger. What are some other great steps to professionally secure their comp? Like, well, give us a few more tips maybe on things that they can do.
Well, like I said earlier, stop thinking like an agent, start thinking like a buyer or seller. If you were sitting down with someone today, especially after what you've been trained, you have already been trained, make a list of what you would expect. What would I expect out of my agent if I was buying? What would I expect out of my seller if I was selling? I think that right there is going to start to tell you how to start molding your actual proposition out there, because if you don't even know what they're expecting, then it's going to be very hard for you to answer all their questions. I would say to all of you, they are looking for a problem solver. Can you solve their problem in the least amount of time and sell that home as fast as possible? Because everybody wants to sell their home fast, correct? But they're looking at your skills also, your marketing skills, your negotiation skills. And remember, negotiating a buyer's rep or a seller's listing agreement is negotiating. A lot of people miss that. Negotiating, getting appointments with them is negotiating. And then remember, they're also looking for niche experts. Like I said earlier, they want to know you've sold a lot of luxury homes. You've sold a lot of 55 plus. They don't want to be the guinea pigs. How many of you want to be the guinea pig at the dentist? Oh, this is your first time to do a root canal? Sure. No, no one's doing that. Do y'all agree? It's kind of the same thing in real estate. Do y'all agree? So, and then they want to know how you intend to find them the home of their dreams, of course, with the lowest out-of-pocket expense, the best transaction methods, and also means if it's a buyer, how many of you use critical date sheets so they can see how this transaction is moving all along the process? You're going to explain to them, I am an agent that will be guiding you, but you will know everything that's going on step by step. Because there's some agents that don't tell them anything, that don't worry about it till we close. Well, there's a lot of things to worry about before we close. Oh, let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is the, I'm sorry, I almost forgot about these other things.
Oh, that's okay. Some of them we've already talked about, Ginger, so feel free to jump to
Yeah,
stuff
some of these we've talked about, but I do want you to be ready to talk about the fact there are going to be some sellers, no matter what type of negotiating skills you have, they are not going to pay buyer's compensation. They're just not buyer's agent's compensation. And when they say that, I'm going to say to them, I'm going to do my very best to get the concessions to make up for that. So that's going to be the best solution we're going to have. Go with concessions. But then again, I'm also going to explain to them, we're going to look at the market, because if it's turning to a buyer's market, you need to know that more sellers are going to be paying this because they need to move their properties. And the other thing that the buyers don't understand today, they have the opportunity to say, I don't want to see that home. But how many of you know the sellers don't know they have that opportunity? You need to be sure to tell them, we don't have to see that home. We also can tell them that we can put that as part of the contract. We have a deal in Texas, an addendum, that it is part of the contract. And what it basically means is the seller is saying, show me your offer, then I'll decide if I'm going to offer anything. And then we're going to negotiate on all the concessions back and forth. We need to make sure buyers and sellers both understand. And if I'm on the seller side and they have already bought another home somewhere, I'm going to show them the holding cost to sit there with that home on the market, not offering any BAC, because it's going to sit there longer. But is it costing them $4,500 a month for all their landscaping, utilities, house payment? So if it sits there for 6 months at $4,500 a month, what is that, 30 grand almost? And you don't want to pay a buyer's agent commission, that might not be your smart move. So you've got to show them logic and data. And then, of course, always back up everything with data, because here's what I will tell you. They need to hear it, but they need to see it, and they need to read it. That's how people actually believe things. Just saying it, do you believe everything? If you read it and it's data, I think people believe you more.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think let's just run into a couple of questions that, you've already covered a couple, but there's a few more that we're hearing a lot. So maybe the first one is, how would you communicate the industry changes? Like, what has actually happened with the NAR settlement? How would you tell people about this?
Well, I think if you're starting to look at some of the bigger brokerages like EXP and even some of the smaller brokerages, they are not going to work with broker to broker agreements, compensation agreements. They're not even having those in their world. They are saying to every single seller, we will not work that way. You will not predetermine your compensation to another agent. We will only work with when the offer comes in. We will use the addendum. You, the seller, will be responsible for that compensation after we see the offer. I think we're going to see a lot more of that headed our way, because a lot of brokers are not wanting to be responsible for that broker to broker compensation. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a whole lot more, and I think we're going to get to this in a little bit, so we may be jumping ahead. You're going to see a lot more unrepresented buyers. I'm hearing from people, they are the listing agent and buyers are knocking on the seller's doors. saying, I don't want an agent. I don't need an agent. I want to buy your home. So are we going to see a lot more of that? I
We
think
are, and
that
I agree with you, Ginger. Well, we need to definitely put a pin in that for 2 seconds, just because we're going to talk about that in more depth in 2 seconds. But I wanted to just make sure we're really clear about, though, that actual question of how do you communicate these industry changes? Not so much that the sort of the result of it, but what are you actually saying to your sellers or buyers about what happened? Do you have a couple of like quick little tips for everybody?
Well, I think I asked them first, what do you know about the NAR
Yeah.
lawsuit? And sometimes y'all are going to find statistically only 25% of Americans even know about it right now. But if they do know about it, I just tell them that we're now mandated to actually use a buyer's rep agreement. In the buyer's rep agreement, there is compensation, but it could be paid by either party. I explain what happened and that there's no longer compensation on MLSs. I just kind of step through it so they can kind of understand, because a lot of people are totally in the dark about this.
Yeah. And then obviously that opens up the conversation about how people are going to get paid moving forward, which is a lot of what we've already talked about. So
Yes, exactly.
I think, yeah, I think that's helpful, because we still get that question a lot. Like, how do I even tell people how to talk about this? So I think that sort of information is great. And then, to your point, I think it's also really critical to not just to sort of understand, what's happening at the broker level, but to also to be able to translate what's happened as a leader through your marketing. And I don't know, Sam, do you want to talk to that a little bit about how you guys are helping them with that?
So I think the whole point across the board is to go and think of it as your entire lifetime marketing and your life cycle marketing. So I think earlier I mentioned this, that you're Googling yourself, you're seeing what you have online, and you gotta go from there. The next step of it is, if you're thinking it as a funnel, how often are you posting and how often are you talking with that client or that audience? And if you understand that it takes an average of 18 attempts to activate a lead or activate a person in your sphere, you would have a much easier time understanding this. So if you've called me today or sent me a text today and I'm like not responding, it doesn't mean I hate you. It's just I didn't have time to respond or understand it. But if you do it enough times, that 18 times, I will be more inclined to actually connect with you. And again, don't forget, at the very end, I'm going to look you up. I'm going to see what credentials you have. I'm going to see how many souls you have up there, how many contents across the board you have, and how many social media channels are you active on. I'm going to do that. But at the same time, if you understand it as a funnel, you would have a way easier way of just connecting with that buyer and seller across the board.
Thanks, Sam. So, Ginger, I think one of the other big questions that we're hearing is, sellers saying things like, show me your offer and I'll tell you the compensation.
That's becoming very prevalent. Y'all need
Yeah.
to be ready for that. There are sellers that say this, why should I predetermine a certain amount of money when I have no idea if they're going to pay me what I want or if they're going to lowball me? So there are sellers that are actually moving to that mindset, but we have to keep in mind, we have actual brokerages that are moving to that mindset. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. I teach for some private brokers that did not have that mindset a month ago. And now when I talked for her yesterday, she now said, we are no longer using broker to broker. We are only using, and we call it 2406. We are only using 2406 moving forward. Now, there might be some shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, and I'll tell you why. There is going to be the certain element of buyers that will say, I have to know exactly what I'm on the line for. I do not want to see a house that I do not know if I'm going to have to pay this or not. Now, that's going to have to be that agent's job to convince them that they can actually negotiate some concessions for them. So, but do y'all believe there will be some buyers, no matter what you tell them, they're not going to go unless they know absolutely they're not paying that? There will be some. Y'all agree?
For sure. We already know that. Like, we're already getting that feedback for sure. So, in that particular case, when we have that situation, we've talked about the fact that if many brokers are moving away from using a broker compensation agreement of any kind, and obviously everything is going to be done at the seller concession level, that's going to be very difficult for anybody to know in advance exactly how this is going to play out. So given that, how are you handling that with your customers? Like, do you have sort of a two-step process where it's like, if I don't get paid out of the seller concessions, then you still have to pay me? Or like, how does that work?
Well, generally, your buyer's rep, they have already obligated themselves to pay a certain fee in that buyer's rep. And you have to be very transparent with them. If you select a home that they are not paying the buyer's agent compensation, or are not willing to do any concessions, then you are going to owe this amount. Now, I have had some agents out there say, if that's the case, I may consider reducing it because we have the ability to amend it. But here's what people are thinking if they're the buyers. You may consider reducing it, but I've already signed a document that says I'm on the line for this amount of money. Y'all see where that can get very sticky?
Mm-hmm.
So, it depends on what buyer you're working with. Sam, if you told me you may owe me $10,000 or you may not, I'm going to want that in writing somewhere, right?
That's exactly right. So I think we are getting to the end of this webinar. So we wanna just have your questions, guys, as to like what else do you want us to cover in the next call. I know this has been going on for a while now. Everyone is kind of well aware of all the changes and everything that's happening. But the idea is just to make sure we are helping you basically move things forward. So Allerie's asking a few questions. There's a ton of things that we can help you with, guys, including if you're a new agent, we can help you with that. If you need forms, just go to gohive.info/roomvu. There's all these things that we covered in there, forms and so on. And Sabina, do you want to have the closing credits and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we never quite get to absolutely everything in any one of these sessions. So I would say to everybody, keep in mind, we've got 6 previous ones and they're listed on the RoomView YouTube link there. Go and check them out if you have a chance. They've all went deep on different topics. So some things that maybe we talked about today briefly, you're going to get in more detail. And to Sam's point, we really, really would appreciate it if you guys could do 2 things. Tell us what you thought about the content today in the chat. We'd love your feedback. The second thing is, what else do you want us to be covering? I know Sam mentioned that already, but we would really appreciate it if you guys could just continue to give us some more feedback on that. The other thing I'll tell you is everybody that's on this call is going to get an email from us with a link to all of the resources that we just talked about, just in case you don't write that down. But you'll get an email either way, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And I think unless we have any more questions, that's pretty much it for today.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for joining. Remember, get started
Thanks.
with something today.
Yeah.
Stop posting on social media. Start articulating your value prop. Stop saying you're a luxury agent. That's my favorite line there. And we are here to help. So we are hoping to help you as much as we can, and we will see you in basically November. We haven't fixed a date, but we'll see you in November. Gotta go from there. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Sam.
For joining, and we'll see you
Thanks,
next
Ginger.
time.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
All
Appreciate
the
it.
golden nuggets.
That's
Thank
her
you.
nickname.